going into action. So the knowledge you get, even from the sheikhs, is coming from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the people around are also receiving that. That knowledge is then going forward, and it's a cycle, inshallah, of ever multiplying, inshallah, coming from the same original source. And that the way that we act and that we behave isn't just important that we listen, but how we enact that, live that through our lives, inshallah. Omar.
Thank you, brother Anwar. Another way of saying this, and I'm going to spend another minute or two on this. Bismillah. The idea is not to just jump into another speech. It's easy to just go speech to speech. The question is, what is it about this talk, this moment, this gathering, that will affect upon our hearts something that the last 100 speeches hasn't? Are you with me? And it's not about, let's find the best speaker possible because our life hasn't changed. It's actually, the words have to be received differently. They don't have to be spoken differently. Most of us have already heard what we need to reach Allah. But we have to go on the actual journey. We cannot make hearing lectures the journey. Hearing lectures is a call to action. But you can't keep calling to action without actioning. Are you guys with me? And the difference between us and the companions. Yes, they had Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but we also have Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Our scholars have said, if you hear a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you have to receive it, and I have to receive it like the Prophet ﷺ is speaking to our hearts directly. And if we hear a verse of the Quran, we are supposed to receive the Quran like it is being revealed upon our hearts. So the difference is not that we don't have Allah and the Prophet. We do. The difference between us and the companions, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and when we hear his name, what do we say? The difference between us and them is how deeply and profoundly they received the message. It was an openness to transformation. It was that Islam did not occupy a compartment of their being, it was their entire being. You hear me or no? What does that mean then? One of my ladies, one of our sisters. What does it mean that Islam did not occupy a compartment of their being, but their entire being?
They put it on action.
They put on action? Do you think it's possible that Allah will give to us based on what we intend? Do we agree with that? Wait, do we agree with that?
Yeah.
Sister Sarah has an answer. Bismillah. What were you going to say?
I was going to say before that it's not something you check in and check out of, like, at work or somewhere else. It's something that you bring into every aspect of your life.
Right, so when you go to work, they have like the old school, you would check into work and check out. Do we check into our Islam and check out? Many of us do though. And here, okay, let me say this again. Is it true? I think the mic is different from last week, so my tone is going to be different. I'm like in speaker mode now, because this mic is like a speaker mic, it's like a conference mic. Anyways, that's fine. Is it true that the Prophet ﷺ said, deeds are by intention and you will have what you intended?
Yes.
Is it true? إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. You will have what you intend. Some of us take that at an action level. We apply that like, whatever I intend on an action, Allah will give me based on what I intend. And that is a common meaning. But I want us to take it from a different perspective. Think about this as our openness to be close to Allah. A lot of us restrict our trajectory with Allah because we actually don't intend to be the people like the people of our past. Let me say it in a different way. Deep in our souls, we actually don't want that. So Allah gives us only what we intend. I'm not talking about specific actions. I'm talking about our higher intention of who we want to be. So let me ask you a question. I don't know if you've ever been asked this. We learn about the prophets, yes? No, stay with me. I want everyone. We learn about the prophets.
Yes.
Do we actually want to be their neighbors in Jannah? Don't answer if you're not ready to. Do we actually want to be their neighbors in Jannah? Say yes if you want to.
Yes.
But I want everyone together. We learn about the companions, yes?
Yes.
Do we actually want to live lives the way they live their lives? I'm glad that some of us are nervous. Because to say yes here, you got to be sincere, because Allah tests the ones that He loves. And if we say, no, I want to live a life like Omar, and we're not ready to wake up for tahajjud, we're delusional. If we don't want to have confrontation with people at our work because we don't want to pray in public, we can't say that stuff. And actually what we're looking for many of us, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about myself, many of us, we're looking for a really chill Muslim lifestyle where we sprinkle our current life with a little bit of pixie dust of Islam, and we're like balanced, not too extreme Muslims. We want to do everything we want to do, and we want to have a cathartic release of Islam that makes us feel good about ourselves. Most of us say that we want to live in the seerah, but if we were dropped into the seerah, we would ask Allah to remove us immediately. You with me or no?
Yeah.
Yes.
It is very easy to say that I wish I lived with the Prophet ﷺ. But when that means that you're going to be taken out in the desert, stripped of your clothes, and have a boulder put on your chest, and then you will smile and say, Ahad, 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 it's different to actually live that life. So are we really about it? Remember, Allah said we will have based on what we intend. So I asked you this question. When it comes to our closeness with Allah, when it comes with how much we want to follow this deen and be like the people before us, what is our intention? Who do we want to be? Which star are we chasing? Have we limited our trajectory so low that Allah is actually giving us based on what we intend? Or are there still people from the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ that are reaching for companion heights? We can't reach prophetic heights, but we can reach for companion heights. Is that fire, like Iqbal said, does that fire still rage in the hearts of Muslims today? This is more important than the content of what I'm going to say next. Because this is about you. This is about me. This is not about lectures. How desperately do we want to be from the Sabiqun, the people Allah has brought near, the best of the best? And are we then ready to sacrifice and do what it takes to reach that level by Allah's mercy? So I ask you to take 30 seconds. Ask the question of why we're here. And what I'd like to encourage us to do is to make our intention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take us tonight from our darkness and bring us into light. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take us from our heedlessness and fill our hearts with taqwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take our sins and transform them into good deeds. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take away the Pharaoh from our heart and decorate us with the qualities of Musa alayhi salam. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take away the apathy from us and fill us with feeling again. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take away the fear from us and fill us with courage. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take away the dunya for us and place within our hearts the care for the akhirah. And if we have care for the akhirah, the dunya will come crawling. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us people that are beloved to Him. People that He is happy with us and we are happy with Him. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us people that on the day of judgment will have beaming faces of joy, will receive their book in their right hand, and will enter Jannah without account. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the strength to walk that difficult path of Sirat al-Mustaqim. The path that is not, it is straight but not flat. It is an upward climb. And may we be the climbers that want to give every ounce of our being to come closer to our Lord. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us believers that resemble the beloved companions themselves, that resemble Nusayba radiallahu anha, that resemble Fatima radiallahu anha, that resemble Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, that resemble Abu Bakr and Ali and Uthman. May Allah be pleased with all of them. That there are too many Abu Jahals and Abu Lahabs, and we need more Fatimas and Abu Bakrs. May Allah make us from them, inshallah. Make our intention, let's continue, inshallah. Bismillah. Khalil Gibran says in the poem On Work, someone comes to him, if you weren't here last week, the poem, The Prophet by Khalil Gibran is the most read poem of the last 100 years. Khalil Gibran is a Lebanese Christian poet, but he made the character in the poem, the Prophet, he's not literally a prophet, but he calls him Mustafa. So you can understand where his inspiration comes from. Right? It is very much inspired by Islam along with other things. So a character comes to this prophetic character and he says, tell us about work. Speak to us about this idea of work. And then this character in the poem responds, Al-Mustafa responds. I want everyone to listen to these words very carefully. You work that you may keep pace with the earth and the soul of the earth. I want us to take away the capitalistic definitions. You work to make money, you work to get ahead, whatever that means. Khalil Gibran is defining work. You work that you may keep pace with the earth and the soul of the earth. For to be idle is to become a stranger to the seasons. So if we don't move, if we become idle, then we become a stranger to everything around us. And if you're taking notes, please write this down. If you don't have notes, just take out your phone and write this down. This is very important. Imam Shafi'i is one of the greatest scholars of our deen. He said in Islamic law, if you guys know the law of wudu, if there's a body of water that's too small, like a little small pond, and it's stagnant, that water becomes impure. To the extent that you can't use it for wudu. But if water is flowing, even if you drop something najas, like you have animal manure or something that's impure. But if it's a large body of water and it's flowing, the water stays pure. Imam Shafi'i says that is also the nature of humans. If they become stagnant, they become impure. But if they keep moving, they stay pure. A believer is not meant to stay stagnant. One of our scholars said, a believer, and we talked about this with some of you after the talk last week, a disbeliever and a believer are different. A believer can be in 40 different states in a single day. They go through ups and downs, closest to Allah, distance, emotional states. They're feeling, so they're going through states. A believer can go through 40 different states in a single day. A disbeliever can stay in the same state for 40 years. So Imam Shafi'i was saying, if we want to come close to God, we have to keep moving. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, live like a traveler, it means in every way possible. Yes, you should travel around the world and see the wonders of the world. And if you want to do that, there's a sister in our community, where's Nida? Raise your hand. She organizes spiritual excursions this year. They're going to Japan, Norway, Iceland. We should all go with her. Wow, people are trying to love this. Who is this? Speak to her afterwards. That is physical travel. That is being like a traveler. But we also have to be a traveler that moves away from bad habits. We move away from guilt and shame that keeps us crippled. We move away from toxic people in our life. We move, but most importantly, we move away from our old self. And we move boldly into our new self. Our true self. Our highest self. Our fitra self. Being like a traveler is not one-dimensional. Is that we do not get stuck in the dunya. We do not build our home in a transit airport. We do not worship the gas station. We use the gas to keep moving. this deen, and listen to my words, because this has to do with work. The idea is we're not working for money. We're not working because I have to work. We're not working because we're making a living. We never call making money making a living, because then money is life. You didn't hear me. Do you hear me? If you equate making a living with making money, then money is life. We are not working for any of those reasons. Yes, we want to support our family. Men and women have different roles, and there's roles in the family and parents, all that. That's all important. Our work, our highest reason for work is none of that. Even if someone didn't pay us, and we volunteered our whole life, and we had no way of earning money, we would keep working. No prophet was ever compensated for their work as a prophet. That's why there were shepherds on the side. We work because that is how we stay in harmony with the earth. And all of the earth is actively worshiping Allah. Our work is worship. That's all it is. And if we find that the job that we have, our work is not just our career, but that little part of our work that sometimes we define our work as, like, what do you do? People don't say, well, I pray Fajr. Hey bro, what do you do? It's like, I don't know, I take care of my parents. No, like, what do you do? Oh, I'm sorry, I work in IT. And it's like, let me put you in a box. So you go from being this hero, like people in the past. I remember there's a sister, this is kind of a weird thing to say, but it just came to my mind. She was like, I have a hard time. People will say, like, I can't find a spouse. What she told me was, I have a hard time being attracted to modern men. It was a very funny thing, because I think she had watched Ortugal or something, and she's like, that's a dude. And it's like, you see that guy? Of course he's an actor, and my brother-in-law knows it. I ran into one of the Ortugal actors, and he's very different when he's on a Turkish Airlines flight, but still cool. Actually, still kind of epic with his hair, but not as epic, right? But she was looking, and she was like, wait, were men like this in the past? Right? Riding horse, like, and then you see a dude, and he's like, yeah, I work for accounts receivable. It's hard to get excited. It's like, I respect it, brother. Like, thank you. It's like, it's like, what's your favorite drink? Caramel macchiato, mine too. And then you hear Omar's story. He's like racing horses and like taking out his sword with the Quraysh and saying, I'm going to join the believers in Medina, and if you want to stop me, I'm going to leave your wives as widows and your children as orphans. You hear that story, and then you're like, oh, we both like caramel macchiato. It could be slightly attractive, but not really, right? And so there's like this thing about like modern life is trying to, it's not even about emasculating. It's not even about gender only. It's like trying to take our soul away and make our lives so darn, I was about to cuss, I don't want to cuss. Make our lives so darn mediocre and mundane and bland. And then so this guy, Joseph Campbell, who writes the book Power of Myth, he says that when we read stories of the prophets, people before us, the great adventures of the past, we have to make our lives animated. Not just we're hirelings working for these stupid corporations that destroy Gaza, and then we work for them and contribute, and then we feel guilty. We have to live a more meaningful life. By the way, Joseph Campbell is the inspiration for Star Wars. George Lucas read his book. He wrote Star Wars to be an answer to Joseph Campbell, to show how we could have mythology and stories and prophetic imagery in our life. But anyways, that's a side point. But what I'm saying is that our lives, our work, our definition of self has to become more cosmic, majestic, prophetic. It cannot be like, so what are you up to, bro? I'm in college. No, you are a spiritual being on a life, your journey going through 5 lives. You're a soul that has been embodied by God, chosen from infinity, placed with an immortal soul inside of you, given the gift of 2 angels to guide you through life, then given the tongue of the Quran to recite, given the greatest of humanity to follow. You are that spiritual being on a human journey, and then you happen to be in college. But if you define yourself by your LinkedIn little stupid one-liners, then what happens to us is we lose epic, grandeur, spiritual journeying. And we just become these kind of lame American Muslims trying to identify with our religion in a modern context. Like we just start saying stupid things all the time. Like we're so obsessed with society and finding, I'm trying to negotiate my hyphenated identity. Bro, like you're not a hyphenated identity. You're not even an American Muslim. We're not. Sorry, I didn't mean to go there, but we're not. If there's no such thing as a Christian American, American Muslim is redundant. To say American Muslim means America doesn't have Islam, so you have to add something else. Because Christians don't have to say American Christian. Jews don't have to say American Jews. Because they're implying that America, if there's any religion that was in this soil before Columbus, is Islam. So American Muslim is redundant. So if we get beyond the identities and we get into the mission, we go back to what our scholars said. We are not human beings on a spiritual journey. We are spiritual beings on a human journey. And we have a mission. And this mission is given by God, not by the deliverables assigned by some project manager. It's the commander of the skies. That's who we work for. Everyone else is a slave. There is one king and a lot of slaves. Some slaves are delusional enough to think they are kings. Pharaoh was one, and we got a few running around DC now. But the reality is, our life is supposed to mean more than that. We're supposed to live with consciousness of jinns, angels, light, darkness, heaven, hell. Every deed we're doing, we're talking to our heart. Every night we're seeing the Prophet ﷺ in dreams. He's giving our marching orders. Our life was supposed to be much more epic. I have teachers that I know personally that see the Prophet ﷺ in a dream every single night. Their life is not, I'm just trying to figure out. Enough of the it's like 9/11 happened yesterday. We're still trying to shake off trauma that we were too young to experience. We inherited it from hearing about it from someone else. Many of us. There are people in this room that who wasn't alive during 9/11? Raise your hand. That's crazy, makes me feel old. I was in high school during 9/11. But what I'm saying is, at some point, you look in the mirror and you say, I am so much more than this society has convinced me that I am, or that I have convinced myself. I am a human that is about to enter into my 3rd, 4th, and 5th life. And I have lived an entire life before I came into this world. And my work is for God. He is my only employer. Everyone else just hands me the money that's from God to me. They're literally HR, or they're literally whatever, payout mechanism, QuickBooks. That's what everything the dunya is except Allah. He is Ar-Razaq, and I work for Him. So if that's the case, then we ask ourselves the question, what do we do? When people say, what do you do? We are supposed to be Khalifas of Allah on earth. That is the definition of a believer. There is the Khalifa, who's the political leader, Abu Bakr, Uthman, Ali, they were Khulafa, but that was the singular Khalifa. Every believer is supposed to hold the title of a Khalifa in their own realm. That means that you're supposed to be, and I'm supposed to be, the trees are waiting for them to walk by. The trees are believers. They actually know Muslims. I was once with Imam Zayd Shakir. We went to the redwood trees in California, and he started going and talking to the trees. And it was kind of weird. I was 18. I was kind of looking at him, and he was kind of going, he's like, Assalamu alaikum. You're a good tree. And I was like, no one's gonna believe this. And then it was almost like he was waiting for something. He didn't talk one-sided. Then he waited, and he said something, and I was kind of whoa. And then it hit me. All the stories from Sira, these trees are believers. And many of them are lonely because Muslims stopped being khulafa. We were so worried about these 9 to 5s that we forgot the 7 levels of Jannah. This other journey that we're actually on. And when someone dies early, like my dear sister who I mentioned, Asra, who passed away on the flight. I mentioned it last week. She was a student of mine, or at least her sister was in Indiana. She now knows the reality. that consultant job at Wichita was just a small thing about her life. It wasn't her life. It wasn't a defining characteristic. We're going to see all the prophets on the Day of Judgment. We're going to see all the companions, all the righteous people. But we're also going to see all of the shayateen, all of the minions of the devil. And we have to ask ourselves, do we want to live our whole life and we never even gave it a go? You get what I'm saying? Like when we actually had time, we got stuck in an educational system that wastes our hours. We spend how many, I remember once I got really depressed. I calculated the number of hours I had been in school. It was, I'm going to depress all of you because I don't want to be alone in this. It was 16,000 hours, 18,000 hours. I was like, what did I learn in 18,000 hours? And that's just like, I'm high school. Then all the other stuff we do. And then they keep you busy with this like upward mobility. We're interested in actual upward mobility. Do you get what I'm saying? Levels of Jannah upward mobility. Not this societal, social class, Langley School, TJ nonsense. This is nonsense. This whole culture of Northern Virginia is based on like a tawaf around nonsense. It is. It's literally like, who is your Kaaba? Who is your Lord? What are we facing? Iqbal said that. He said, your qibla is not where your body faces, it's where your heart faces. And I'm not saying this with any hatred. I'm saying this with love. Like, are we gonna, I was asking Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, I said, like, have you seen Ertugrul? It's kind of interesting what it's done for my nephew. It makes him feel like an epic Turkish like warrior. Then he goes to like public school and doesn't know what to do with all the energy. But it's interesting. He uses dodgeball, I think. When he plays dodgeball, he's like, Allah Akbar, and then, talk words to the kids who don't know what he's talking about. But Sheikh, I didn't say all that, Sheikh Hamza. It was a quick question. I said, what do you think about Ertugrul? He's like, like, I won't do my impression. But he's like, I think it's good. It may be good. He's like, but I've never seen it. And I said, why? He's like, I'm so busy trying to live my own life, I don't have time to watch someone live theirs. We are people living epic lives while we eat Cheetos on the couch. And it needs to end. So what Gibran is talking about in this poem is not a small thing. And I've gone so off course that I'm going to get some people in the back are like, do you even give him 5 minutes? Because I don't know where he's at. But what I'm saying I mean from my heart. What Gibran is talking about is, it's not enough to just do things. And do not, and I need someone's help. Yeah, go ahead. Just keep switching. Yeah, thank you. So what Gibran is saying here about what real work is. He says, always you have been told that work is a curse and a labor of misfortune. Like, I hate Mondays, I don't want to go to work. Like, people always talk about work being a curse. And then he says, but I say to you that when you work, you fulfill a part of earth's furthest dream, assigned to you when the dream was born. We're not working for those reasons. We're working to live out our greatest potential. Then he goes on. And in keeping yourself with labor, you are in truth loving life. And to love life through labor is to be intimate with life's inmost secret. Let me explain this in a different way. Sheikh Abdul Hakim Murad said, we were not placed in this world to be idle. We will have enough time to be idle in the grave. We will have thousands of years to do nothing. This is the only few minutes where we can do something. And Sheikh Abdul Hakim Murad, the brilliant scholar at Cambridge, he also said, you don't have to punish someone for laziness. Listen to these words. Laziness is its own punishment. The lazy person feels so terrible about themselves, you don't even have to punish them. They have punished themselves. Is that true or no?
That's true, yeah.
Is that true? And what he said, and we won't get to this part, but he says that when people talk about the world being dreary and they're jaded, and then when you get weary, you start echoing their jadedness. Like, people are like, life sucks, work sucks. That tone becomes our tone. It's contagious, that negativity. Gibran is asking us to go in the opposite direction. So he says, you have been told that life is darkness. And in your weariness, you echo what was said by the weary. Now listen to this is amazing. And I say that life is indeed darkness. Life is darkness, except when there is an urge. when there's that fire. Some of us have become so beaten down by this dunya that we don't have it anymore. I still have it. I have it because when I see what's happening abroad, I'm not okay with it. And I'm not okay with just writing some social media posts and going and talking to the enemy and putting signs up, begging people to hear us when they're getting paid by someone else. They are the enemy. And I'm not saying all the government, I know some people are listening. I'm not saying all of you, many of you, not all of you, but there are enemies. It can't be just that. So there has to be an urge. So Gibran says that life is indeed darkness, save except when there's an urge. And all urge is blind, except when there is work. Blind except when there's knowledge. So if you have an urge, but you don't have direction with knowledge, then you don't know what to do with the urge. Some people will get the fire and they'll destruct the world. Terrorists, that's what they do. They take that urge, whether they're state terrorists like Israel or individual terrorists. They take urge to do things, but they don't have knowledge to guide it. So he says, all urge is blind except when there's knowledge. And all knowledge is vain except when there is work. And this is where our community fell. We became so much about knowledge that we did not apply what we learned. So the world did not feel the ripples of our knowledge. It became theoretical abstractions. It became notes that we never read. It became thoughts. We learned so much about hunger, but our neighbors starved to death. We learned so much about orphans, but none of us adopted an orphan. None of us fostered a foster child. It became theoretical. So he says, life is indeed darkness except when there's an urge. All urge is blind except when there's knowledge. All knowledge is vain except when there's work. And all work is empty except when there's love. Love is not a fuzzy term. Love is the intention. Another way of saying this is, if there's not a heart to the work, then the work has no value. It's not even what we do only, it's why we're doing it. He says, all your work is empty except when there's love. And then this is the key line. And when you work with love, you bind yourself, to one another, and to God. And what is it to work with love? It is to weave the cloth that threads with threads drawn from your heart. So if you're weaving an outfit, the threads are coming from your heart. Even as if your beloved were to wear that cloth. So if you're going to make clothes, you make every piece of clothes like the one, as if the one you love best, your closest beloved, is the one who's going to wear it. That's how you work. That's called ihsan. If someone said, I'm going to make an outfit for the love of my life, imagine if you made every outfit with that love. And then he goes on. It is to build a house with affection, even as if your beloved were to dwell in that house. I can promise you, Ryan Holmes does not do that. As someone who's lived in their houses, they did not make it for their beloved. They did actually, their beloved with money, but alhamdulillah, that's all good. An economy of skill. It is to sow seeds with tenderness and reap the harvest with joy, even as if your beloved were to eat the fruit. Everything we do in our life, we do it with love. One of my teachers said, you could be at McDonald's and you could become a saint of God. If every time you turn the burger, you say, Ya muqallibul qulub, O turner of the hearts, turn my heart to the deen. You could become a saint of God. And I think that meat would not legally, but it would become more beneficial than Zabiya meat. I'm not getting into the meat debate. I know it's our favorite topic. I'm not walking there. And I don't eat at McDonald's. But what I'm saying is, someone could infuse that little 30% meat patty with so much love that Allah could put barakah in that. But more than that even, you yourself would not hate your job. You would not see it as I'm making burgers. It is a bridge that I'm making between me and Allah. And I'm coming to my Lord. The journey is not a journey to a paycheck. Everything is just a means to Allah. And anything that is halal, that is done for Allah's pleasure, becomes worship. Anything that's halal, that is done for Allah's pleasure, sincerely, becomes worship. And any worship that is not for Allah's pleasure becomes a sin. You feel me? We think one person's reading Quran, one person's working at McDonald's. One could be becoming a saint, the other one could be living as a sinner. Because worship that's not for Allah is not worship. Any mundane act that's for Allah is no longer mundane. It's no longer profane. It is now sacred. As long as it's halal. Then he goes on. It is to charge all things you fashion with the breath of your own spirit. It is to put yourself in what you do. Not to have to cut off your emotions so much that you become a zombie working for some corporation. Some 1984 scenario. Just walking zombies. The Walking Dead appeal to us because many of us are doing that. And to know that the blessed dead, interestingly, are standing about you and watching. All your ancestors are watching what you're doing. The Prophet ﷺ received the deeds of his ummah. And we want to make Rasulullah proud every single day. And then he says towards the end of the poem, work is love made visible. Work is love made visible. And then he says, if you bake bread, but you hate the baking of the bread, you will only fulfill half of men's hunger or women's hunger. If you press, he gives the analogy of wine, if you press grapes and you hate the pressing of the grapes, then you will suffice only half of men's thirst or women's thirst. What that means is, if we have a society, you guys know who Gordon Ramsay is?
Yes.
He's entertaining, I don't deny it. My wife and I went through a MasterChef phase, I will admit. But if someone told me something that really impacted me, they said, this is someone that curses as he cooks food. Imagine the state of the food he is making. Sheikh Mendy said that if you abuse an animal, a lot of halal meat, the animal's still being abused, right? Halal meat, generally, the definition, unfortunately, is just how the animal's slaughtered. You could abuse an animal for 3 years, say Bismillah, actually put a CD on in Jordan that says Bismillah and animals are being cut, and it's considered halal meat for us. Sheikh Mendy said that if the animal is in trauma and is killed in a state of trauma, do you not realize that trauma is generational? Which means that it will transfer to you. A lot of the anxiety and trauma and depression we're going through is because we put those animals into anxiety, depression, and grief. It is just transferred to us. They have given us their energy. But when you treat an animal with respect, then you receive the powerful energy of that. It's a gift the animal gives to us, not a curse. The last act of that animal is to curse the one that has slaughtered him, the one who will eat from him. Because he has known nothing but pain since he was born. Do not think that that halal burger is going to have blessing just because we say Bismillah after we took that meat and tortured it for 3 years. So it's not enough to just do things in this world. We have to do it from a place of orientation to Allah. And then everything becomes a blessing. A single rock, when the Prophet ﷺ threw the dust in the battle, what did Allah say? It was not you who threw, it was us who threw. We threw and you threw. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say through the Prophet ﷺ, through the Hadith Qudsi? I'm just ignoring that side of the room until Umar grabs me by the neck. Okay.
You're good, you're at like 10 more minutes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the powerful Hadith Qudsi that you do not grow closer to Allah by anything but what Allah has made mandatory. And then you keep growing closer to Allah by doing the extra things, the nawafil, the extras. And then Allah says, until I love him or her. Allah didn't love that person right away. He accepted them as Muslims, but the love was growing. There was a certain level of love. But he says, until I love him or love her, then I become what? Who remembers? The eyes from which they see, the ears from which they hear, the legs from which they walk, the hands from which they strike. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does that mean? That Allah, you see with the eyes that have been blessed by your Lord. We walk with limbs that have been blessed by our Lord. He says, I become the eyes from which they see. And then he says, and if anyone calls war on my servant, I call war on them. And there is nothing my servant hates more than death. And I hate disappointing them. that person becomes what's called a wali, a friend of Allah. And they become literally the person Allah loves most. He doesn't want to even hurt them with death. But how does that happen? It happens when we live a life where every step is worship. And the way to live that life is not to say that I have to live in like what we do in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. That state that we get into, some people will come into masjid and live in itikaf. We don't have to live in itikaf to stay in worship. That's beautiful in the last 10 nights. We don't have to live in Cave Hira. The Prophet, that's not the sunnah. The Prophet went to Cave Hira, then he returned back to Makkah. But he took Cave Hira with him. We don't have to live in a state of ritual worship. We have to make all our rituals worship. Everything. And here's a good test. If there's anything we're doing in our life, and we find, hear me, stay with me on this one. If we find anything we're doing in our life awkward, if we begin it with Bismillah, stop doing it. You're not hearing me. If there's anything that's a little sketchy and we're not sure if we should do it, just start it with Bismillah and Surah Fatiha. If it starts to make you feel weird, that's not worship. Even if you're having interaction with the opposite gender, you're hanging out, whatever, you're like, am I crossing boundaries? Let's just, hey, sister, brother, before we hang out, let's just start with Fatiha. The person's like, this is really weird. It's like, well, there's a reason for it. Which part of us is feeling awkward right now? Because the angels are loving it, right? But if we could make our work a higher purpose, and elevate it, if we could see our lives as not one life to live, not in the words of the poet, let's follow these guys, not the poet Rihanna. No, girl, we're not. We're not. We're not paper chasers, so live your life. That is a terrible philosophy. It's the whole you only live once nonsense. That is the dunya philosophy that makes you want to forget you had a life before and 4 lives, including this one after that first life. No, you're not a paper chaser. We are only chasing Allah's pleasure. And money is a means to the end. That's all it is. And most people in our past prayed to not be given wealth. That is true. We're not allergic to money, but we're definitely not enamored by it. Most of the companions, we say, oh, but there were rich companions. That's 1%. The vast majority of companions were not interested in the accumulation of wealth because they knew what that would lead to. So what is our higher purpose? Now I want everyone, I know a lot of you don't have notebooks, inshallah, in future sessions maybe we can, but if someone could write this down, and everyone else, do you guys have something on your phone you can draw with? You have that type of thing? I'm old. What's that thing on your little hands? Phones? Okay. Alright, I want you to draw a Venn diagram with 3 circles. Okay, I'm going to end here, inshallah. I want to leave something really practical. Before I do that, are you guys with me today, or are we on the same wavelength? Do we see that there's something dramatically wrong about the way we're approaching our lives? Do we see it? Do we see that it's not a 1-degree turn? This whole darn train needs to be shifted? Like the rails need to be torn out, we need to build new rails? Do we agree with that?
Yes.
Do we agree with that? That we're living lives of glorified mediocrity. Do we agree?
Yes.
We're going to have nothing to talk to with prophets in the hereafter. Do we agree? Like you talk to heroes in the future, like, oh, what's your name? Khalid bin Walid. Oh, cool. Oh, you're like renamed after him? No, I'm like you know how they say I originated the role on Broadway? It's like I originated the role of Khalid bin Walid. It's like, oh, you're the Khalid bin Walid. Yeah. So what'd you do? Not much. I mean, weren't you like the sword of Allah? Yeah, I was. You fought the Byzantines, yeah, never lost a war. Yeah. You cried when you're dying because you weren't shaheed, you had 70 wounds on the front of your body. Yeah. But what did you do? It's like a lot of stuff, you know. Busy, volunteering, you just love. What's that book called? Live, life, love, peace, love, drink, love, pray, eat food.
Eat,
What is
pray,
it?
love.
Eat, pray, I eat, pray, love. Like, what is that? Eat, pray, love? Like, is there a hedonistic spirituality? Okay. Like, what are we going to say to these people? We're people who fast. our worship is restricting our body to find Allah. And then if we have a taste of luxury, we're overwhelmed with shukr. So when we talk about what our life could be, here's a model that helped me to try to break away from this weird treadmill American Western culture. Now it's unfortunately been outsourced to the world. Make 3 circles. It's a Venn diagram, so they should be overlapping. Like that. Can you show? I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm sure many of us know what a Venn diagram is. Just in case. Okay. In one circle, you drew wrong. That's okay. Oh, that's okay. Oh, that's not okay. There's no intersection point with 3. Sorry. Can you just do it like that? Okay. That wasn't okay. Okay. I'm gonna end here, but I want to leave something very practical. And I want to leave the rest for the conversation. The idea is not to just say something and not back it up with practice. So I want us to have something we can go home with. That first circle, we label that circle with what we are good at. I want to keep this very simple, not deep, not philosophical. What we are good at. And this can, inshallah, hopefully trickle into our conversation when we break into our groups. What we are good at. The second circle is what is needed in the world. What is important. Are you guys with me? First circle, what we are good at. Second circle is labeled what is important for the world. Third circle, what is unique to us. Meaning, what if we don't do it, other people wouldn't. Unique value proposition. Are you guys with me?
Yes.
What is something few people are thinking about? And I'm saying this because this changed my life. In 2005, I was living in Jordan, and I thought my path was to become a Muslim scholar. All my favorite teachers, they were all like the shuyukh, like Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, and some of them had told me you're gonna be, go and study, you could be next or whatever, and I was kind of doing that. And then I did this circle thing, and I realized where my unique work was gonna be. That perhaps we didn't need one more person to just give lectures, but to take ideas and do something with them. To help people apply what the other 100 scholars were saying. And so I found my sweet spot. I want you to find that sweet spot. It is big. Now, if you look at the first circle, what's the first circle? Stay with me, please. What's the first circle?
What you're good at.
What you're good at. You could be good at something that provides almost no value to the world. So you're Willy Wonka. You're really good at making chocolate. Okay, or candy or whatever. And you could say, well, I could use that, monetize it. Fine, but what you're good at may not, or you're good at making alcohol, as example. But what you're good at may not actually be what's most important. But then the second circle is what's most important in the world. It could be stuff that you're not good at, so other people will do it. Just because it's important doesn't mean it's our mission. And then finally, what other people are not doing. It could be that what you're good at and what is important is what everyone's focused on. The whole community is focused on building masjids and schools. And as Dr. Jackson said, we're building no civilization in between. So you got to go to that third circle. It is when you find the overlap between what you're good at, what is important, and what few people accept you are doing. That intersection of 3 circles is where we work. That's our mission. And until we find that sweet spot, we don't fall into analysis paralysis or paralysis analysis. We don't say that until I find my passion. It's not about passion. That's a very ego-centered Western concept. It's about finding my purpose. So you do anything meaningful as you find that center spot. You don't wait. It's until I find what my... It's not about passion. I'm not even doing what I'm passionate about right now. I'm doing what is most purposeful for me. Passion is a self-serving, I have to feel good about it. No. Khalid ibn Walid did not feel good about going into battle, after battle. He was fulfilling his unique value to the ummah. It could be painful, it could be joyful, as we said last week. It could be full of sorrow, it could be so... Brother Anwar Khan spent decades in the hardest places in the world with colleagues literally being kidnapped and killed. Literally that happened to Brother Anwar. That may not have been his joyful expression of self, but it was his mission and purpose. If we find that, then I promise you, our lives will become, we won't have to watch TV shows. We won't have to watch Marvel. There's a reason people like the idea of superheroes and all that. Because it's in our fitrah. Because our prophets had miracles. We come from a people that used to think that you could be so much. Our scholars had miracles. There is a reason in our fitrah we want to believe Superman can fly. Because we want to feel that we're not stuck on this earth. And we're not. A believer's not. That's what our salah is supposed to be. It's our flight to heaven. We want to believe we're stronger than just a human. Because our prophet had the strength of 10 humans. We want to believe that there is more than we can do than, what's that song by Belle and Beauty and the Beast? There must be more than this what?
Something there.
Provincial life?
Yeah, parental life.
Provincial.
Oh, that one.
We all want to
That
believe.
was Belle the Reprise.
Thank you, Neda. We all want to believe that there's something more than this provincial life. But there is. Because there's an akhirah. I don't know about you, but I can tolerate failure, but I cannot tolerate mediocrity. I cannot tolerate leaving this life and I never lived it for Allah. Right? What do they say? A hero dies only once, a coward dies 1,000 times. It's time to break away from that cowardice and live courageously for our Lord, inshallah. Please join me in the recitation of Surah Asr. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal Asr. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. If I could have just one request, I just realized we're being live streamed.
Yeah.
Just this one could be deleted.
Delete it?
Yeah, like actually delete it.
Completely delete, okay.
Like just not public at all.
Can we make it, we'll talk about like.
Private,
Pri-
yeah, just no one sees this.
Sure.
All right.
We got that on the live stream too. Yeah.